14-year-old daughter happy birthday. Today is her birthday. So roll call. I'll just go in the same order for all of our roll calls. Commissioner Sturm,
Here.
Commissioner McCormick,
Here.
Commissioner Mason,
Present.
Commissioner Heising,
Present.
Commissioner Farsan,
Present.
Vice Chair Radnich,
Present.
and Chair Labange present. Next is adoption. Oh, excuse me. I'm going to read a note for everyone. Please welcome to tonight's Planning Commission meeting. As a courtesy, members of the public may participate remotely in this meeting. Please refer to the meeting agenda for information about how to provide public comments, either in person here in the room or via Zoom teleconference. Any person may address the commission on any item listed on the agenda. Persons wishing to speak on items listed on the agenda will be heard when called by staff. You're welcome to speak for up to 3 minutes. Public comments from remote participation on Zoom will be audio only. This means member of the public wishing to address the commission will be allowed to speak live. However, their video will not be shown and screen sharing will not be an option. Finally, since the city cannot guarantee the public's access to teleconferencing technology, conferencing technology will be uninterrupted, and the option for the public to participate remotely is only a courtesy. If technical difficulties arise for participants using the teleconferencing Zoom option, the meeting will continue unless required otherwise by the Brown Act. We appreciate your patience while we get used to the new audio visual system that enables us to offer remote participation. All right. Next, can I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All right, roll call. Commissioner Sturm,
Aye.
Commissioner McCormick,
Aye.
Commissioner Mason,
Aye.
Commissioner Heising,
Aye.
Commissioner Farsan,
Aye.
Vice Chair Radnich,
Aye.
and Chair Labange. Aye. Thank you. Next up is public comments. If we have any public comments for any items that are not on tonight's agenda, now is your time to bring them up. So I look to staff to see if we have anyone in the room or anyone calling in.
Seeing none.
Okay. Consent calendar. Can I get a motion to adopt the consent calendar?
Can I first ask a question?
Yes.
On the minutes, I did notice on page 5, there's a yellow highlight. This, maybe if staff can explain the highlight, 5 of 6.
I would need to pull it up. I think the minute taker will generally highlight sections that they want to bring to the attention of staff and just affirm that the notation is correct. So if you're comfortable with the notation, we'll remove the highlight.
Yeah, I personally was not here for this meeting, so maybe I just look to the rest of the commission. It's highlighting a speaker's name.
Remember the name.
Yeah, it may have just been they couldn't understand the name, because the audio wasn't precise. So
I'll
Yeah.
confirm the name and spelling is correct.
That is correct, because Mr. Reddy was on our speaker system. He wasn't here live, so it was a little difficult to hear something.
Correct.
Yeah.
I'll make the correction.
All right. Unless there are any other questions, can I have a motion to adopt the consent calendar?
So moved.
Okay, roll call. Commissioner Sturm,
Aye.
Commissioner McCormick,
aye.
Commissioner Mason,
Aye.
Commissioner Heising,
Aye.
Commissioner Farsan,
Aye.
Vice Chair Radnich,
Aye.
Chair Labange. Aye. All right, we have no continued public hearing. Let me make sure, get back to my agenda. Okay, new business, staff, I'll turn it over to you Mike to present tonight.
Thank you. I'll just, thanks for allowing me to return. Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners. Really great to see 7 commissioners. I'm sorry, we've been having a little hard time through COVID and everything, fielding the chairs. So, but this is my opportunity each year. Mike Moran, Director of Engineering and Public Works for the public, And if you don't know me, each year we come with proposed projects that we do want the Planning Commission to ultimately find in conformance with the general plan to allow us to proceed with the construction of them, but also as just as an update to share, because you've seen in past years projects that we've brought to you that we're doing. So just as a walk through the staff report, we do have a paving project pretty much every year. Sometimes we have a paving and a surface seal project. This last year, we had this surface seal project. It happened to be the largest one we've ever done. It's keeping our paving condition index at around 75. We had sort of a high of 76. So we're holding steady, which is a very good rating. Concord, for example, is in the low 50s, and we used to be in the high 50s 20 years ago. So our roads are in good shape, but I'll talk a little more on that in a little later. But this project was the largest surface seal project we did, and we also teamed with Moraga and also Contra Costa County. So it was kind of a joint effort, and we got an economy of scale on the, pricing for our surface seal, which is something we try and do when we can, when it all works out. You may be familiar with the rain garden. That was something this was an ongoing. I probably brought this up a couple times to you over the years, right? We finally have completed this. This isn't a picture of it complete, but we did have a nice grand opening for it on tax day, Saturday the 15th, and it had nice attendance from some public dignitaries and some of the public itself and staff. And I'm glad that we finally completed this. We ultimately ended up teaming with Parks, Trails, and Rec, getting some funding from them and using more of our general funds. This started as a WW grant from East Bay Regional Park District. We got about $189,000 from them, but when we were all done with this project, we were about $600,000 in for design and construction for this little corner of Lafayette. But it is a great corner, just catty corner from here, and it does get a lot of traffic, especially foot traffic, particularly the junior high schoolers walking back and forth to the schools and to the library and up to Taco Bell after school and so forth. So I'm glad that that's done. Now we're treating our stormwater. We're getting credit for that in our pollution prevention projects. So also very close to this location, if we were to go upstairs and to the children's deck, we're working on an enclosure there. That's been ongoing for some time too. You may recall that this one had to be rejected all bids, and we had to rebid it. And then we waited again because we had to order materials during COVID, and it took a long time to get. It's nearing completion. It's been a very long, arduous construction process. Just every little thing about a project like this seems to be harder than it should be, but it's looking good, and it's going to be complete pretty soon. So if you went up, you'd see kind of an enclosed room like this, and the intent there was really to make a space that was underutilized to be very usable again. For it could be story times, it could be an outdoor setting, it could be a host setting for a wine and cheese open house kind of event as well. So they're hoping to get more use out of that. Another project that was backlogged for years that we're finally getting close, although you wouldn't know it, is a traffic signal here at Mount Diablo Court at the east end of town at Mount Diablo Boulevard, just past the cemetery and the Park Hotel there. If you drive through this over the next month, you will likely see that the signal poles will be erected. So they've done a lot of work. It just doesn't look like it. It's like the foundation for a house, and then they're going to frame. I don't know when it's going to be activated, because we may get this thing fully completed and wait 2 or 3 more months for PG&E to energize this and give us power. It's a 2-hour project, but it could take months. So we're working on that. A big thing this last year, safety improvements near schools, and the council did allocate some of the Palos Colorado's funding that we received from Moraga to go towards safety improvements near schools. And it is things like this. This is out in front of the middle school at Stanley on School Street, where we changed the intersection configuration, made the crossings ADA compliant, added the flashing beacons. And we have things like this at pretty much every school. There's another flashing beacon crossing on St. Mary's Road at the backside of this. We've added some speed humps in several places. And this is an ongoing project. On Pleasant Hill Road, you'll see some speed radar signs that will be activated to school times. The foundations are up for that, but we have not installed the products yet, although they are in our warehouse, so we have them. So just a bunch of things like this near every public school and the Mayor White Pony School as well, because the school district owns that land. They felt like we should include that as well. So that's ongoing. It wasn't a big bid project. It was just, we're piecemealing it together. And for a while, for the most part, I've been handling it because we don't have staff available to do that. So that's part of why it's going slower, but it is ongoing and we are making progress. So we had a BART project that we've talked about before, haven't started anything on that. That's gone back and forth with funding. A project that we thought the design was complete 2.5 years ago. BART about 2 or 3 months ago said, oh, we didn't review that for this. We should basically take it back and start over. So it's in BART's hands when we thought it was effectively complete. I don't see that starting construction before 2024. If it came right now, we probably wouldn't have the staff to cover it. But that's the pass-through walkway art project between the new development and the south side of the BART station. Design of a Pleasant Hill Road pathway. You may have heard about this. We received funding from a state assembly member, Rebecca Bauer-Cahan, to design this project for a pathway, for a multi-purpose pathway down the middle of Pleasant Hill Road between Mount Diablo Boulevard and Stanley Deer Hill. We've had a couple public meetings and it's gone to a Transportation Circulation Commission. We've received a lot of public comment. Pretty much everybody hates the idea, is the bottom line. And our council chose not to seek construction funding for it, at least in the form of a request for an earmark for future projects, just because of that public comment. That's going to go back to the council this next week, so May 8th. Staff's recommendation is that we finish the design. Doesn't mean you have to construct it, but we've been given money for the design. We should finish the design. We're 1/3 to 1/2 of the way there. And have it on the shelf, particularly since it can be tied in with the development on Deer Hill Road, the famous, infamous, whichever terraces project that's taken so long to approve. But now the lawsuits have been settled and so forth. So this project does tie with that because our recommendation is to utilize some right of way that we don't have on that west side of the road, which we would need cooperation with the developer to do that. So that's that project. We will also be building another paving project this year, and it includes Olympic Boulevard, includes St. Mary's Road, and one other road I'm forgetting. Glenside Drive. So kind of a Burton Valley-ish, if you will, project this year. We have learned this year, and this has been vetted through council members and our Transportation Circulation Commission. Once we finally got our design out and shared with the public for St. Mary's Road and Glenside, East Bay Mud came back and said, on St. Mary's Road, we really need to do this water main replacement project. And it covers about half of the portion of St. Mary's Road that we were going to repave, which is like South Lucille to the ball fields, Buckeye Field. So it's quite a section through there. And if you drive that section regularly, you'll know that it's in poor condition. So we are planning to defer that project, and East Bay Mud has assured us they can be out of there by May of 2025. So we're deferring it 2 years before we pave that. Because sections of that road are in poor condition, we will still this summer do some patch paving to keep it serviceable. And then any tear up that they do while they're doing this project, they're going to have to kind of fix as they go. So we are planning to offset a little bit of that because that's a large portion of our paving that we were going to do this year that, we found out we need to defer. We're adding a smaller surface sill project, which I'll get to, and it's shared in my staff report. So that'll be a change for this summer that we did not anticipate, for example, when I came to the Planning Commission last year. And then we have one other project I need to change this year, but that all leads us to really let's see, I can zoom this, right? Yeah. Make sure you get the page. Really, this is my set of proposed projects and funding sources. And you can see even from your staff report, I have a change there on the Smart Signal project on my sheet from 839,000. I've changed that to 1.13 million. And the 651, which would be effectively matching funds for an earmark or for that OBAG 3 funding, would go up to 688. That's a number that was updated to me through CCTA, Contra Costa Transportation Authority's consultant last Wednesday. They're like, hey, no, we actually are going to get more money. So this is a county-wide Smart Signal project. So that's the only change I have to this. It's just more money, which means we have slightly more matching funds as well. So that's why both of those rows went up. I didn't total that, but that's going to be like 4.2. Sorry about that. Luckily, you're not taking action on my math tonight on the updated. But anyway, this project, I've got the surface seal and pavement repair for 2024, and I can break out those streets in a minute, but those are kind of our major streets next year. Arterials, we've got Taylor Boulevard, Mount Diablo Boulevard, Pleasant Hill Road, sections of that, Quant Road off of Pleasant Hill Road, and Greeley Station Road. So more of our heavier arterials and collectors are on the docket for next year. So that's that first line. Those are the pavement repair and pavement maintenance streets, basically. Pathway paving on Pleasant Hill Road. This year, we're doing 3 sections of pathway paving, and this is yet another, it'd be a 4th section of pathway paving on Pleasant Hill Road. This would be a section right in front of Spring Hill School. From the East Bay Regional Park parking lot just to Spring Hill. So if it's sort of an informal drop-off pickup that parents use for Spring Hill School students, but then there's no pathway around, and historically they would go through the back gate in the field. Well, the schools have closed those and they don't want to staff those. And it's a little bit of a mess with parking along the Pleasant Hill Road side, and it's not a protected pathway at all. So this would be to build that. So that's the second project there. We have been informed that we should be receiving $100,000 in a TDA grant towards that. We think it's going to cost about twice that for that section. So 50% funding from a grant. The Smart Signals project, as I mentioned, we have 2 different grants. One is for Lafayette, Moraga, and Orinda. It's our own federal earmark from Representative Desagne's office. The 2.24 million is just Lafayette's share. It's actually like a $4 million earmark, if you will. And then the OBAG 3 is a county-wide, like a $27 million grant that the 1.13 would be Lafayette's share. So all of a sudden, Lafayette is starting to get some federal funding in the form of earmarks, which is great because we honestly don't compete that well with a lot of the other grant opportunities out there. Almost all of them have a disadvantaged community component to it, and that's almost where all of the funding is going to on some of those grants. And we just don't compete very well, even if we have a great project. So glad to see that. The community center playground, our Parks, Trails, and Rec is trying to go ahead with that. I don't know what's happening. You can see the 1.182 million. They just opened bids for that project and came in at 1.3 was the low bid. And I don't think they have the funding to do it. So I'm not sure what's going to happen there. And if that'll actually be constructed this next year or not. The Buckeye patio design, that's the ball fields out there. If you've been out there, you have kids playing Little League or whatever, a very uneven surface with the expansion and contraction. We would try and stabilize the patio and try and keep it level. It's basically a project that'd be some underpinning and some retaining wall work and backfill and recompaction. So it's just settled over time. It's very expansive soils out there. So that's what that project is. Bridge maintenance is on 5 different bridges throughout town. Every other year or every 3rd year, Caltrans on behalf of local jurisdictions does bridge inspections, and they give us reports with recommended maintenance. We don't have any major issues, but we have like scouring at some of the abutments, and we have some erosion at some of the places, and we have some resurfacing we will need to do on some of the decks. So this money is set aside not to do that construction, but to do the design and the environmental permitting, because every one of our bridges crosses a creek, and every one of those is going to take probably a Fish and Wildlife, an Army Corps of Engineer, and a water board permit. So it's intensive on the planning, development, and permitting side. Let's see, the pathway design and construction. This one's going to be fun too, because it's already controversial, but we've received some federal earmarks for a School Street pathway and some OBAG 3 funding to add on to that, to include Topper and St. Mary's Road, to do around the junior high, a multi-purpose pathway, which right now there's nothing on Topper. Right now there's smaller sidewalks on School Street. It feeds a lot of people. It's going to connect to the regional bike trail. And I think people are mostly getting used to, yeah, we should do something on School Street and connect to our First Street pathway that's already there. The fun is going to be Topper Lane is not real thrilled with any walkway going on their street whatsoever, at least the residents. That's the feedback we've heard so far, but we do have the funding for it. We do have the right of way to do it there. It is adjacent to a school. It was requested by the community, so we did request it as part of a packaged grant. So it's going to be at least a 2-year project, possibly 3, but it'll get kicked off late summer, early fall this year. As far as the early planning, we'll have to go out and do the surveying and come up with preliminary designs, or at least some renderings of what we think we could put in there. There's a few different ways we build these pathways, which side of the road, and what the elevations work best. And then we'll share it with the community. We anticipate there's going to be several community meetings for this, because again, we already know that it's not popular with everybody. But it is something that's been requested. I mean, particularly near schools. And as I shared earlier, for our safety improvements near schools, it was a council priority to improve safety for active transportation users, in particular bicyclists and walkers. So that's the last of the projects. And all I would share after that is, I said we're going to backfill with a surface seal project this year, because we're losing the pavement, or that paving on St. Mary's Road, due to East Bay Muds project. These are the streets that we think we can add this summer. So this is different from the list that I shared with you last year, because of course we weren't anticipating this. And then in addition to this, and I've got written at the top here, we have 3 sections of storm drain that we found really failed this last winter. Lucky to only have 3, really. But these 3 we think are small enough and urgent enough that we want to do this year. So basically what I'm sharing with the Planning Commission tonight these are our proposed projects, along with these additional surface seal streets and these 3 sections of storm drains. Those would be the new proposed projects that we would be asking the commission to find in conformance with our general plan. So it's either a walkway project, a storm drain project, a pavement maintenance project. Yeah, actually that's it, or possibly that park project, right? Or the playground and Buckeye patio design. And that's it. I'm happy to take any questions or go over any other issues in town, capital project related.
Thank you, Mike. Let's see if we have any questions. Any questions up here? Commissioner Farzan.
Thank you, as always. Good synopsis of what we're doing. So I have a question, and for clarity, this is my side of town, so I'm going to ask so everybody knows. So going to the 2024 surface seal and pavement repair, which is on page 11 of 12. So I know for Mount Diablo, it's from Paulson going to El Nido Ranch, which makes sense. Why not cover it from Acalanes there? And the reason I ask this is just for clarity. From Acalanes up to Paulson, eastbound traffic on the right lane, the far right lane, it's a disaster, to be completely honest with you. One lane is splitting in
Yeah.
half.
Yeah.
So is that something
So
gonna be
we're going
working
to,
on?
we will address that with this project, but we probably will not repave the whole section. And the particular reason for that is we have to, we'll probably even address the leveling this year, because I'm very aware of the section you're talking about. We are concerned that the cause of that may be a failed storm drain under Mount Diablo Boulevard at Paulson. So that's the fourth storm drain I mentioned, but I said we need some more investigation. We've done some work there to basically dredge out the outfall so that we can actually maybe get to it. And it's still a swamp. It's still a pond right now. So we can't even TV it right now. So we're going to do some leveling this year. We probably will do some more effective reconstruction as part of this, but we wouldn't do the continuous limits to Acalanes. We would just fix that
section.
300-foot section, because the rest of the street, like across the street in the westbound direction, and the rest of it's in good condition.
Yeah,
But to
completely-
your point,
yeah,
that's the worst section on Mount Diablo Boulevard. Why wouldn't we include it? Right.
yeah.
But that's why we plan to, and probably in 2 phases. I think you'll see some leveling this summer because it's so bad we can't even wait a year.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
Commissioner Heising.
Yeah, thanks, Mike, for the presentation. Just a couple questions. On the earmark for Pleasant Hill Road, you mentioned we're gonna design it and just shelf it. But with the rest of that money, is there flexibility in the earmark to perhaps, if it's spent on Pleasant Hill Road, could we purchase right away from the developer to make those improvements?
So when you say the rest of the money, the grant we got for just a design was $238,000.
Mhm.
And with the traffic studies and the design, we're expecting to spend about that much
Okay,
if we complete the design.
okay, so there's not really gonna be any.
We've spent about 85,000 of it already, or maybe it's 89,000, but in that realm. So
Okay.
yeah, it's not like there'd be a lot of extra money.
Okay, thanks. And then my second question regarding East Bay Mud, in my day job, I've had experience with them when they come through and cut into the street. If they don't properly do the T cut and compact, I just want to make sure they're gonna, not only will they get the pipeline work done, but they're gonna do the T cut and compact properly before we overlay. So that we don't get settling.
So that's correct. And we're very unpopular with East Bay Mud because if we have a street in good shape, we make them do a 4-foot T cut, not a 1-foot T cut. But we have a 1-foot T cut even when a street is in poor condition.
Okay.
For
We'll get that out of them
for the
before
compaction.
before we do our.
We
paving.
will.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That was it. Thanks.
Commissioner McCormick.
Yeah, thank you very much. A very interesting presentation. I just have a couple of questions. A very simple one. I just wanted to confirm the traffic signal project, the one going on Mount Diablo Court, Mount Diablo. If that's just going to be traffic, that's going to be activated just from the traffic coming out of Mount Diablo Court, correct? It's not going to be on a timer.
Correct. It'll be
Right.
traffic actuated.
Right.
There is through traffic on Mount Diablo Boulevard. So you should mostly get a green light.
Right. Pretty much like the one in front of the Park Hotel, I'm assuming it's.
Pretty much, yes.
All right. Second, I was just because I'm a rookie, went back last year to kind of see what was planned so I can kind of compare it to this one. I noticed the plan last year, or when you talked about the 5-year plan, you had some staffing goals. And then you mentioned even in your overview here, how you're kind of short-staffed and you're having to do some work that presumably you wouldn't be doing, you'd be managing. And then it looks like we have extra money, more than usual. So we have a pretty full plate. I'm just kind of curious how we're progressing on staffing, and are these projects, are we gonna get stuck with just, I'm just kind of wondering if we may have we might have in the past, maybe we had enough staff and enough money. We might be in the opposite situation now.
I would say we're in the opposite situation now. Thank you for bringing that up. And Commissioner Heising's aware of this. So we have advertised for a senior engineer to join our staff, and we had that open for quite a while. We got about 2 applications. We interviewed one of the 2, and it just wasn't going to be the fit that we needed or the person that we needed to come right into it and take on these projects. There's a theme that the Capital Projects Assessment Committee is going to have, and it's twofold. One is this $3.6 million on surface seal and pavement repair. What our pavement management program is telling us right now is we need to spend about $3.75 million a year to maintain that pavement condition index at 75. When we ran this number about 4 years ago, it was 2.65 million.
Hmm.
So it's gone up, a third, I mean, or 50% more. It's up $1 million. That money we don't have in funding every year. These are my sources: the SB1, the solid waste impact fees, the gas tax. And then if I get some of these other, earmarks or something else, those are almost always not for pavement maintenance. They're always for something else. And in fact, if anything, those take away from the paving project because they're always going to have matching fees that I have to take from one of these other sources. So long-term, we don't have the funding to maintain our streets, and we'll probably see our pavement condition index start to drop off unless miraculously construction costs decrease. But we're not seeing that happen. And that big jump was due to construction costs increasing primarily. So that's one theme, is we don't have funding for the PCI. The other theme is, with all these projects, we don't have enough staff. And we haven't been able to obviously attract or retain the new staff that we need. We've got a few of us that have been here a long time, and we're happy to be here and still here. But we need some people in between. We've got an assistant engineer, and we've got Matt Luttrop, our engineering services manager, and we have a senior engineer, Anna Bernardos, who took over for Farzaneh A. Sanders. Most of you probably knew her because she worked there for 25 years. But that's it. That's our engineering staff and myself. And then we have construction inspectors, and we need one more to do this workload. And one of the themes that I keep telling, like Park Trails and Rec and CPAC and our city manager and our council, is if we don't have that other staff person, you're going to have to rely on consultants to subsidize this, which is going to cost you more than an in-house person, by about 2 to 1.
Right.
That's part of what our Parks, Trails and Rec was trying to do, that community center playground this year. They're using outside consultants because we don't have that staff person. And we basically pledged that we could probably do one Parks, Trails and Rec project a year if we had this last engineer. So last year we did get approval for funding for the position, and this year we still don't have it filled.
Okay, that's great. So it sounds like the plan is you wouldn't table one of these projects that's on here. You would just augment with consulting. It sounds like
So if we augment with
Right.
consulting, we probably are still tabling a little bit. And if it's on a paving project, for example, we may have to do less. We may have to
Right.
take a street or two off just because we won't be able to cover the cost.
Great. All right. Thank you very much.
Anyone else have questions? I have a couple. Yeah. Mine are just little things that I'm just trying to educate myself. So on the general fund and carryover, is carryover just what it sounds like, funds from last year that carried over?
That's correct. So we're anticipating that $800,000 carryover because we're not paving that large section of St. Mary's Road. So it would have been spent had we been able to do that.
And so just on how this graph works, like, so just for instance, on the top line, the 3.6 million. So I'm assuming if that was, let's say, 4 million, the remainder, unless you have some grant or one of the ones to the left, is just going to come from general plan if we
General fund, yes.
general fund, if we,
Right.
excuse me, if we assume to do it. Okay. Thanks. And then the smart signal program, is that just timing signals, or is that also, what is that?
So that'll change it'll change some of the hardware. It'll change the controllers. Ideally, the plan would be to get to how it's all interconnected, either through fiber or cellular. We don't have any of that right now. In Walnut Creek, you can go sit in a room and you can change the timing on a signal on Ignacio Valley Road. We don't have those capabilities. That's the goal. But there's phases in getting there. And the first phases are just changing some of the hardware and the controller cabinets and updating, and the detection loops that are usually the inductive loops in the ground would be more video detection. And they will have the capability of doing many things, including, traffic counts and right turn movements and things like that. Video surveillance if police should need them, all those types of things. So we have a few sets of intersections that have video detection, but we don't have many. Most of them are just loops. Although they would still be supplemented by advanced loops sometimes. Usually you use the video detection for right at the intersection loop. So it's a lot of phasing in, and then ultimately, if we could get remote control, so to speak, that would be the ideal.
Okay.
And then they would talk. I mean, there'd be an intelligence to them that's beyond what you could program into a software that we have now. Because right now, if you drive from our offices on the west end of town and you try to go up to First Street at 5 p.m., you'll call me and say, why don't you synchronize these signals? They're horrible. But if you were to drive there at 10 p.m., you'd say, wow, these are synchronized. They're beautiful. Same program. All it takes is one PED crossing in the middle of that, and they don't sync anymore. So ideally, these would be intelligent enough that they can actually account for, I need a 30-second crossing time here, but it's normally a 15-second, and they can catch that 15 seconds quicker than this program that takes 5 iterations to catch up. And then somebody else crosses one block over and it just messes it up again. That's what's happening now. So we're using the best technology we have right now. But theoretically, the smart signals will be smarter and be able to adapt so that they actually can help the traffic flow and adjust for pedestrian crossings and so forth.
So if just by order of magnitude, so 4.2, if and I'm thinking most of these would be Mount Diablo Boulevard, although I'm sure they could be elsewhere. What would you if you could like extrapolate, what do you think would be the all-in cost? I mean, I'm trying to figure out, is that 10% of the cost?
Yeah, so we've got like 30 intersections that are signalized, and actually a couple of those are under Caltrans control, and they're on Pleasant Hill Road, they're on Mount Diablo Boulevard, they're on Moraga Road, and they're on Deer Hill Road, and that's it. The larger cost there, what we're trying to do is get to the smart signals for, I would say, the 9 most important signals, which is the T of Moraga Road at Mount Diablo Boulevard. So Mount Di at First Street, Moraga Road, Oak Hill, and then going up Moraga Road at Moraga Boulevard, Brook Street, School Street, St. Mary's Road. That T would be the most important, along with the Pleasant Hill Road coming down the hill from Walnut Creek, Pleasant Hill. We're hoping to get those where we actually have communication to them with fiber or cellular. All of our other intersections, we're hoping to at least update the equipment so that if we could get fiber there, then we could make it work. I don't know the all-in cost. It's just starting in the project phasing for this, and CCTA's consultant AMD is kind of heading this project. If you ask me in 4 months, I'll probably have an per intersection cost, but I don't know what it is.
Okay. But I mean, this is obviously a fraction of the whole thing.
That's right.
I'm assuming.
That's right. So pretty much every signal will get some upgrades, whatever hardware upgrades they need. And then those most important signals where we're doing the most harm to our commuters and so forth, that's where we're going to put the emphasis of the rest of the money.
Great. Okay. I think I just have one more on the Topper Lane. So around Stanley, the kind of school access. I'm just trying to understand on that one, once you go through all the public meetings, what will the discretionary approvals, will that just go right to city council? Does that come here? I mean, I know it goes to city council, but does it come here?
I think I don't know that it's coming back to planning commission unless it needed to for some reason. It would certainly go to transportation and circulation commission and then city council. Those are the two, I think, along with having public meetings.
Okay. Great. Thank you very much. Anyone else have any? Commissioner Stern?
Thank you, Chair. I have a piggyback question on that walkway project around Stanley. So that was a project, did that come out of the downtown congestion study? So it's already, the concept is already defined?
It came out of it first came up in, I think it was our 2012 Safe Routes to School. And then it came up in a Safe Trek report as well. I don't think it came up in the downtown congestion study.
I know we looked at the drop-off areas.
Yes, right.
But I also remember, I think we looked at the drop-off area, like actually making a hard paved drop-off area in certain spots.
On St. Mary's Road, right.
Yeah, but I thought we were looking at a pathway through or along the edge of the yard Because it seems to me that the
So
most,
that was recommended and the school district has said that's not even an option. However, they are willing to work with us for that hard drop off on St. Mary's Road and actually use some of their, real estate back there along St. Mary's Road. So we anticipate incorporating the planning and design of this, even if we don't get that built, as part of this whole school Topper. And we do have a segment of St. Mary's that will just connect Topper to Birdhaven, because Birdhaven is the only street for 3 or 4 streets that doesn't connect to the path. Because if you could get to the path, then great. But that street's having to come out around on St. Mary's Road and walk down Topper to go up to Lafayette Elementary or.
well, what's going to happen is the kids they'll just go in that back driveway anyway, no, but maybe like the section of Topper that's improved would help, at least in that small section where people are cutting over from the trail or like the one neighborhood street.
Right.
But I never see any kids walking down Topper. So
we've had requests from families, particularly that live on Birdhaven, because they lost access to the trail because it used to be kind of a convenience that was allowed by private property owners and they closed it off when it changed ownership.
Okay.
So, and then the request also stems from the Acampo, Solana, Hamlin, across the street for people to, it'd be a greater connectivity if we could match all that, particularly with the drop off on St. Mary's Road.
Okay. And then you mentioned that field reconnaissance and design work would start late summer, early fall. How is that somebody out there with like survey equipment, like around this?
Yeah, we may
traffic
start-
hours?
Yeah, well, we're not going to slow anybody down with what they're doing.
Okay.
Yeah, you will have some surveyors out there from time to time between now and fall.
Okay. And then a question about the paving project on St. Mary's Road the Edmud, so this is further down by Buckeye Fields. You're talking-
Yeah, it would be Buckeye Fields, and from there, like as you're going towards Moraga.
Okay. So I don't know if it was last summer or the summer before that, did we have to pause paving because PG&E, or was it Edmud was doing work near the community center?
That work did happen. Both had projects there, but I think it was PG&E was probably the one you're thinking of, closer to the community
Okay.
center and by the bridge there. We didn't have any planned paving
Okay.
at that time.
Okay, great. And that's it. Thank you.
Commissioner Mason.
Thank you. Wasn't part of your presentation. I know it's farther down the road, but since we acquired the Batwing property, I haven't heard anything about, nor do I have any idea where you could actually have access and parking and stuff like that. Is there any update on that?
So other than, I'll put it as an interim slide repair, because there's concern with where one slide is, it needs to be weatherized again and redone a little bit. So Parks, Trails and Rec is doing a smaller project, like I'll say an order of magnitude, like $50,000-$60,000 slide repair. There hasn't been movement on that. PTR kind of tends to shuffle their projects. And, 2 years ago, we thought we were going to do a more permanent stabilization on the Batwing property. As far as access to it, I mean, it's Hamlin, it's Sweet, right where it turns there in that, but you can't make that into a parking lot, but there is public parking there. And I know they're trying real hard to get some grant of easement from some Carlisle Terrace people so that you could access it there as well. So they're working on access and where we could get that in multiple locations, but you have one access, and that's at Sweet at Hamlin, because that's a public, right away through there. And I mean, another one down at St. Mary's Road, but I wouldn't want to send you there because there's no place to walk or be protected. Unless we add a walkway, which I think we should, and it would be a natural extension if we were able to do the drop-off pickup on St. Mary's Road, that we would connect that all the way down to the Glenside Y, at least, along St. Mary's Road.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we need to open for public comment. Now's a chance for anyone out there. If you have any public comments, please raise your electronic hand.
Seeing no raised hands.
All right. We will close the public comment. And I'm assuming we don't need to rebut anything. So I'll just open it up for planning commissioners. If you have any comments or, we can. I think we've asked all our clarifying, so if you could just kind of give an idea where you are and or I'll take a motion. And do
Yeah.
we have to have a motion tonight?
Yeah, we need a motion and Mr. Chair, I'd like to make the motion being from CPAC. So I'd move that you find the proposed 23-24 capital improvement program list and the added storm drain and 2023 surface seal work to be in conformance with Lafayette's general plan.
We have a second?
Second.
Any questions? Okay, roll call, Commissioner Sturm,
Aye.
Commissioner McCormick,
Aye.
Commissioner Mason,
Aye.
Commissioner Heising,
Aye.
Commissioner Farson,
Aye.
Vice Chair Radnich,
Aye.
Chair Labange, aye. Thank you very much. All right. I
Thank you.
think next is other business. There's no appeal period, right? I think we have a need for ARC volunteer for May 9th at 9:30. I did check. I cannot do it. So if anyone else or anyone in general available. May 12th. Did I say 9th? Sorry.
Are those in person or
No, you're still over there.
I can do it?
Still via Zoom. Yes.
Thank you. Commissioners report. Any commissioner reports? Nope. Planning directors report.
Thank you. A few items to update you on. Tentatively on your next meeting 2 weeks from tonight, the planning staff and GPAC will bring to you the draft safety element update for your consideration, as well as our annual progress report on our housing element and housing production that we submitted to HCD. This past week, there was a zoning administrator meeting at which I approved a variance to convert a accessory structure, a carport, which has existed for many, many years. Currently with a 3'8" setback from the side property line. They wanted to rebuild it as a full-blown garage enclosed 1 foot from the property line. Ultimately, after 4 meetings, it was approved with a 3'8" setback. So maintaining the existing setback fence and hedge. Approved a 400 square foot second story addition on Via Roble and a new 1-story with a partial loft, single family residence, 5,000 square foot on Las Huertas. So there's an existing flat vacant lot, and the architectural style will fit right in with the neighborhood. Coming up on Monday night, the city council will receive a presentation from East Bay Mud engineers regarding the reservoir tower, which is long-term seismically unstable. And so they've heard feedback from the council and the community, and will be presenting some options to have some more potentially aesthetically pleasing solution when they lower the overall height of the reservoir tower. So tune in Monday if you're interested. Currently, we have money in our planning budget for training and conferences for planning commission. So that's an annual thing. Annually, there's a California Cities, California League of Cities Planning Commission Academy, and that alternates between Southern California and Northern California. This year, and I think mid-March, it was in Southern California. So next year it should be back up in Monterey again. So I'd encourage you all to attend that if you're available and interested. Similarly, Sonoma State puts on a planning commissioners conference And we'll keep our eye out for these and forward those as they come up for registration. And lastly, American Planning Association California chapter currently has opened up registration for their fall conference in Fresno, September 16 through 19. So if you're interested, let me know. We can connect you and we can register you for that. And then lastly, on the dais, as part of the city's 175 plus year anniversary celebration, there are mugs of appreciation for your volunteerism for the community. So please feel free to take those with you and enjoy those. Morning coffee, evening coffee or tea as you review packets or otherwise. So that's what I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if we don't have anything else, I think we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you.